जन्म शरण प्रभु की आज रे। इसका हर एक वचन है अनमोल रतन, ऋषि मुनि बोले रे। पाले प्रभु प्रीतम छूटे जन्म मरण, शरण प्रभु की आजा रे। पल पल जीवन ले प्रभु का भजन, शरण प्रभु की आजा रे। बारंबार
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। So we have started talking about the time for reflection. We have to have it as part of our very schedule, not like
Janki ji, can you repeat? No, we cannot hear.
Okay, I was quiet because there was this racket coming from ups. I don't know if you all could hear it. Could you all hear it? So we have to, what we had started was time for reflection. We take our time, put it as part of our schedule, just as we have a time for eating or drinking or sleeping or whatever else in the world, going for a jog, doing yoga, whatever in the world we have our scheduled time for. We have to have scheduled time for reflection, because when we don't have that, we don't do it. It's about as simple as that. So every morning when we get up, that is the time that we have scheduled. The best time is between 4 and 6. If you try it, you'll see the difference. That's the best time. But if you can't do that for whatever reason of your own, then as close to this time as you can do initially, and then slowly come into this range. And you find that you yourself will see the difference. These things are not like something that, you have to believe anything. Do it and see. See if you see a difference. Now, how much reflection do we do? Remember, we said it was 1:4. For every 1 hour of class, you have 4 hours of reflection. For 1 hour of reading one page, you have 4 hours of thinking about it. So that has to be the sort of ratio. 20% reading, 80% thinking. Now, many people get lost here. They say, I cannot do 80% thinking, which is true also. It's difficult to do that thinking. That is why people don't read. Of the people who read, they go through so many books. So the people who actually understand any book they've read is very little. That is why you have people who have a lot of information, but it's all over the place. It's not amalgamated into anything in particular. So very, very important. If you feel like can't do so much reflection, reduce even the reading. Otherwise, what is that? Saul Bellow said, people can lose their lives in libraries. They ought to be warned. Okay? So this is where we have we have to, and of course, do not exceed the time. That is also there. Do not do too much reflection also, otherwise you'll go mad. Right? So shall we proceed with reading? The proportion of Shravana to Manana is 1:4. Every 10 minutes of taking in knowledge requires 40 minutes of reflection. Most people would find this proportion difficult to maintain. Don't worry if you find it difficult. Everybody finds it difficult. Just do the best you can. Make sure that you at least spend some time thinking about what you have just read. Just as food takes time to digest, so does knowledge. You don't expect, right, that you just ate something and then you see the result. You just have protein, now you have muscle. It doesn't work like that. It takes time to digest. Just as food takes time to digest, so does knowledge. Just as we would not dream of eating a meal until the first is digested, so mustn't we with knowledge. Suppose you feel, heavy with your food. Would you eat some more food? You wait till it's all digested, you are relaxed, your stomach is empty, and then you will eat, right? Or anyway, then is when you ought to eat. When your stomach is full, you've just eaten a full meal, now again you're eating another one, then something's wrong. After going to the gym, does one not give time for the muscles to rest? The best thing you can do to build muscles is, what?
Rest.
Sleep. Because your muscles are built during sleep. I mean, assuming that you have gone to the gym. If you've not gone to the gym, then just by sleeping it won't. But if you have gone to the gym. So, after you've done your gymming, you rest. Exercise without rest is not only does not build muscles, but can ruin them. Similarly, reflection after information is crucial for gaining knowledge. We have read many books, but do we even remember them? Then how have we put our time to use by reading them? This is the great thing about it. That if you don't even remember what you read in that book, then what use was it reading them? What have you got? I mean, you spent, let's say, 5 hours reading a book. 1 year later, you remember nothing about it. What good was to read it? Reading a book is useful only to the extent that one reflects upon it. Reading a book is useful only to the extent we reflect upon people can lose their lives in libraries. They ought to be warned. He says, Saul Bellow says that you should put a notice in the library that you can get lost in the library. Not lost as in physically lost, but you can get so caught up in information gathering. Consider this book you are reading. Of what value will it be to you? It all depends on the reflection that goes in. How valuable is this book going to be in your life? It's not dependent on the book. It is dependent on what you reflect. This is very interestingly shown by Ekalavya. Ekalavya, he asked Dronacharya, please teach me teach me this art and skill of archery. And Dronacharya said, no, I am committed to the princess. I will not teach you. So what Ekalavya does is he makes a statue of mud, does namaskar to it, and practices archery. And he becomes as good an archer as Arjuna. Isn't that an amazing thing? He's as good as Arjuna. Arjuna, who is a prince, who's been trained by the best teacher of the times. What is the moral of this story? That what you are given is not as important as what you're doing with what you're doing. The more you can have the world's best teacher or the world's worst teacher. Because he, poor fellow, he had a mud teacher, but he still made the most out of it. How? It is just by doing our own hard work, own reflection, own thinking, own application. Like in everything, doing our application. Now we are trying to buy a land. So Mahesh is telling me, no, don't involve me in land. I don't understand anything about land. Okay, none of us understand anything about land, wherever we all bought land before. But we have to apply ourselves because we don't know who's going to. We have to think about it. Like, is this okay? Is this not okay? We're temptingly close to something. We don't know whether we'll actually get it or not, but so close. You feel like, oh, it's within striking distance, but who knows what life will show us. But we have to keep thinking about it, to figure out whether this is okay for us to do or not okay for us to do, and what are all the experts that need to be involved. If we don't keep on applying ourselves, then the karma becomes useless to us because we don't grow with that karma. So we have to apply ourselves all the time. Okay, have I forgotten anything? Have I missed anything? Is there any better way of doing it? Constantly upgrading. So similarly, in knowledge, constantly upgrading, constantly reworking, constantly thinking, constantly cogitating over what you have heard. Not a parayan. Parayan, Joyce, Nadine, parayan means just repetition. Not just repetition of the Lord's name. It's not a parayan. It's like you're engaging your intellect into it. Sort of thinking about it. That is this correct? Is it true? Does it fit all known circumstances? Is there any circumstance where this does not work? And if it doesn't work, why doesn't it? Is the law wrong? Is this some kind of exception? Is there another law playing? You're constantly figuring it out. Like simple thing, what did we discuss last night? Yeah, like we were talking about how it seems we learn in class that the higher the ideal, the more motivated you are. But then many people are more motivated for selfish reasons. So why is it not working there? Or what is happening over here? Suppose I offer somebody in this class, come work for the university and we will give you $1 million if you work for it. How many people will work for it? And if we say, come work for the university just for the cause, how many people will work for it? Right? So what is motivating people? Is it their personal interest or a cause? Which motivates them more? So think about it. How can you say how can you believe that ideal inspires, and see differently or experience differently. You have to understand what's going on. Because if we don't understand, who's going to understand? Right? This is about our life, no? So I have to understand how my mind works. And the amazing thing is that since the principles are universal, how my mind works is how everybody's mind works. So you understand your own mind, you've understood everybody's mind. So think. Don't take it on face value. Whatever you have studied, do not take it on face value. And then your own studies you'll find becoming so much more interesting. Because you will start questioning, genuinely questioning. And that's how we elevate ourselves. Because you understand that same principle over a much vaster arena. Okay? So whatever knowledge we have acquired, either through listening to a lecture or reading a book, what matters is not what that knowledge was. Even false knowledge we have, as long as we are willing to think about it. Think about it means reflect about it, think about it. Now, Israel and Palestine are at war with each other. Ukraine and Russia are at war with each other. And of course, everybody in the world has some view on it. What are your thoughts on that? How much have you thought about it? Not from a particular personal perspective, but from an overall thing. What is it? Do we have to read the newspaper every morning to find out what is the view to look at it? Why don't we find the facts ourselves? Different theories, different points of views. It's something for us to think about. No? So, whatever information we have got, am I willing to think about it? Now, the problem is, most people say, I'm willing to think about it. I can't think of anything about it. This is where the problem lies. I just can't reflect. You keep saying reflect, I just can't reflect. What am I supposed to do? Monica, I study regularly, but reflection is not taking hold in my routine. Monica, I study regularly, but reflection is not taking hold in my routine. How can you be regular and it not be in your routine? I don't understand.
No, I mean, as I study, but I don't really reflect for that. I mean, I'm not able to. I hardly reflect for a few minutes and then my mind goes all over the place. It's as hard as meditation, apparently. And I've been doing this for a couple of years now. So how does one go about it?
You've come to the right book and you're at the right time. See what the next topic is. Can you see? Something?
Methods to reflect, yeah.
Yeah. We are about to come to the crux of the matter. And let's see how many do we have. We have got 13 methods outlined for us. Let us see which of those we can actually use. Okay. So how do we reflect? Yeah, Nadine, you're saying something?
I just wanted to share about what you were just saying about how we are reflecting about what's going on. And just to share this image I had today when I saw these hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fleeing, I just saw an image of Indians when the partition, you know, with Pakistan. And I don't know why, I just saw humanity always being drifted away and walking and walking. And I thought to myself, but when are we going to learn? When are we going to, you know, since how many decades this flow of humans are just being moved on and pushed. And, you know, it was like, I was thinking, my God, it's good that we are doing such a little drop, because maybe this little drop we're doing, maybe one day you know, because how many decades are we going to just, yes. And someone told me, but why did you think about India? You're not even born. I said, I don't know. I just saw you know, people just moving and being kicked out, you know, and being completely having this turmoil. Anyway.
So yeah, so you have to ask yourself, why is it through history? You know, based on a few people doing a few things, the rest of us are just being kicked out of everywhere. We ask ourselves, what is happening? What is happening that some people alone are determining the future of us all? What is that law by which this is happening? And if you think about it, you see that all of us are, you remember the law, the passive and the aggressive. The aggressive will keep on doing something, and the passive will pay the price of it. So the point of Vedanta is to make more and more aggressive good people, so that less and less passive people are going to pay the price of the aggressive bad. You know, this is what's happening throughout history. Some nutcase gets some idea in his head, and then the rest of the world has gone crazy about it. And it's the same thing, right? Hitler, he got some idea in his head, and the rest of us, I mean, rest of humanity has to pay some kind of price. In fact, this whole thing that is going on now, it's got its roots in what Hitler did. He picked up a whole bunch of people and went and put them somewhere else. Who's going to put up with this? So every, you know, if we as humanity persist in being passive, means mind-led, this will continue to happen. Millions and millions of us will be killed, will be moved, will be made unhappy until some sense prevails. I mean, more people have some sense. So yeah, it's a drop. We're trying. Let us see whether we achieve it. And we have to even know, even as we struggle to achieve this, we have to know that all our work will bring it around to a certain level, and then the forces of nature will again pull the whole thing down. We have to know this. So we're not reliant on this happening, but we just feel that it is our obligation, so we will make this happen. You know, so that's a sort of balance we have to maintain in how much we are going to try to sort out everybody else's problems beyond a point. So when you think about it, look at this. What is everybody? Remember, all the elephants of Hannibal had to cross. How many elephants had to cross the Alps? You know, somebody thought of something, right? So all of it is driven by somebody who's using his head 90% of the time for wrong purposes. So if we can change, if we can do something to bring about that kind of change, yeah, we'll solve all the problems. So think about it, whatever is going on, think about it. And what are the laws by which, suppose something happening in your own home. So try and identify which is the law which is working over it. Try and identify. Suppose you say, some people say, you know, oh, why is this bad thing happened to me? It's my karma. What do you mean it's your karma? Karma means action. So which action? Tell us. If you know which action, then it's of some use to say my karma. Otherwise, what's the use of saying this? So working it out. Now, every time you can't find the situation going on, so think on the knowledge itself so that you can digest. So it is very difficult, Momita, to think and so figure out what is going on. It is exactly like a scientist making a discovery. How does he do this? He thinks about it and then suddenly gets some idea. What do you think Einstein did, right? He just sat down and thought, what will happen if you move at the speed of light? He thought that.
So my problem is more like I feel I'm getting it. Now, what is there to think about? That is more of a challenge, actually. What is it that I reflect on? Because I get it. I'm awed by it. It's inspiring. It's motivating. Then I just keep reading.
Yeah. So please note that all of that, we are the words used. I'm awed, motivated, inspired. None of these are understanding.
Right. No, I understand. I assume an understanding where, which is what motivates me. So then throughout the day, maybe something of that comes up in my head while I'm observing things. But I don't really sit down and reflect, what did this mean? Because it always seems like, okay, now, even if I deliberately sit down, I don't know what to do.
Okay, so try and think of ramifications. If this be true, suppose you read a sentence that the proportion of Shravana to Manana is 1:4. You read the sentence. You say, yeah, it's true. What am I to think about? So now think, okay, if you feel there is nothing to think about, this statement is true, then think of ramifications. Think what happens if, why 1:4? Who came up with this formula? What is there in 1:4? Is it a specific formula, or does it mean generally you have to have a lot more reflection? What's it talking about? And what are the ramifications? If I am inspired, I am motivated, I have not done any reflection. So big deal, what is there in this? So think of ramifications. Okay, then how will I know that I have reflected and understood properly? Think about it.
Maybe I should just write. Good writing.
Like, you can write. Writing will help, but sometimes, yes, of course, writing is a very good thing. But writing and then rereading what you written so that you can achieve precision. Otherwise, somebody like you will write 20 paragraphs just like that. So you have to discipline that writing. That is your talent, right? You can write. So you will say, oh, just as your thoughts will wander, your writing will wander.
Somewhere in the back of my head, the idea is I'm disciplining enough myself by reading. Like, whether I like it or not, this is the time to read. So I get up and read. And I feel, okay, if I do this long enough, then slowly, I will reflect also.
Correct. But then you're doing Hatha Yoga.
Right.
So by force, right? Hatha means focus. And yes, if you do Hatha long enough, your mind will wake up. That is also correct. But when it wakes up, you have to start thinking.
So, okay. So basically, right now,
it's sounding very bad when I'm saying all this to you. I'm painting a rather black picture. It's not that bad, but the thing is, some of it is obviously clear because you may have reflected in it in the past. You already thought of these things, and so you find, yes, this I know.
But everything seems like that. The language is not hard. The concepts are like, because I've gone over it so many times, I'm making connections with various concepts. And the idea is all very nice. But the whole activity of reflection is not happening.
It will happen. Now we will study various ways to reflect. But the important part of reflection is that you're questioning the knowledge. Even if it's your own belief, we have to question. Like the thing that we discussed in some class about, if unselfish work is so motivating, will I work for unselfishly without asking for anything, or will I work more if somebody were to give me $1 million to do it? So I mean, it's nothing particular about me, but anyone, what would they do? Then what is this concept that this is more motivating? So when you think about it, you get the answer.
So reflection is like a crucial part, right? And it's frustrating that it's not happening.
So now you have to question that. Any form of frustration, why should I have? I am here to have a good life. I am here to enjoy myself. No frustration, no worry, no anxiety is to come to me.
So does it help to say, okay, now I will only study for 10 minutes and I will only reflect for
You'll go crazy if you try that stunt. 40 minutes. My God, I've got nothing to think. I'll do daydreaming.
now what if I make myself sit down and just do nothing but sit? Even if I'm doing nothing, this is the time for reflection, so I cannot do anything else. Will that
Try
help?
and see if it works. Good. Anything that makes you reflect is good. But a good thing is to question. Let's keep questioning everything. Like this, why 1:4? Who says 1:4? Suppose it's 50-50, what's wrong with that? Suppose it's 75-25, what's wrong with that? Question it. Who came up with 1:4? Is there any reason for 1:4?
I'll get to that if I sit down. The whole point is that the activity itself is not happening. So,
But you're saying I study regularly.
yeah, so I just read, I comprehend. There's some internal dialogue happening, but there's no.
Don't worry. It will happen. As you do more and more karma, you will be forced to do more and more reflection as well.
Thank you.
Ravesh, is reflection is also affected by the environment? Is reflection also affected by the environment? Is it positive or negative? No, reflection is your own. It's got nothing to do with the environment. If it's a negative environment, maybe you will reflect more. That will be easier to reflect because everybody's being very sweet to you. What is there to think about, right? But if everything is not going correct, then maybe you'll think about it. Yes, Diane, you can make any announcement at the end of the class. But as of now, let us do the class. Okay, so, right. So, shall we continue? So, is that okay, Pravesh? Then a negative environment will probably help you to reflect better. Because then you'll have more
it's that like we are able to understand what is wrong, what is right, and we are also able to identify in ourselves that something is wrong. Means we'll be able to analyze our action, that these actions are wrong actions. We have to control.
We lost you, Pravesh. Reshma, interesting.
Good thoughts in ourselves.
What? Sorry, I couldn't hear anything you said. Did you all hear? Did anyone hear? I heard something about reflecting on your own actions and whether to know whether your actions were right and wrong. That's not what you reflect on. What you reflect on are on principles. In your morning study, the actions you have the whole day to think of. Okay, so in the morning, you have to go by the principle. Selfishness causes agitation. Let us say that is the principle you're studying. No, many people I know who are selfish are not agitated at all. Many people I know who are not selfish are very agitated. Okay, like for instance, one lady, I never forget that lady, she was very cute. There was some Rotary talk or Lands talk or something. So we said the normal stuff, cover the normal points, selfishness causes agitation. When we got up and she said, no, but you see, I have a property. Somebody is trying to take my property. And he is not agitated. I am agitated because he's taking my property. So he's being selfish or I'm being selfish. He's a very cute lady. But that's what you do, right? You question it. So you ask, who's being selfish? He is taking my property and that's agitating me. So who is selfish? He's selfish or I'm selfish? He's very happy he's taken my property. I'm the agitated one here. Right? So you think on principles and ask yourself, is this really true? Is it true? And one day when it occurs to you that this is really true, it's infallible. You will not perform another selfish action. You can't, you're incapable of it. Like you understood this is cyanide, you're incapable of drinking it now. So that's what we want. See, it's very easy to be inspired by the idea of unselfishness. It is very inspiring. Suppose you hear all these stories about all these great soldiers who gave up their life for the country, or anybody, anybody who's done something great. It's very inspiring at that point. And we say, oh, what great people. And we say, look at them. We are small people. Great people. They're the same people. Don't forget that. Same. Except they've understood something or they've identified with something that they have. Otherwise, exactly the same. So when you start questioning it, then you really get it. I see, this is what it means. Otherwise, it just sounds very good. So don't reflect on your action. When you talk about reflection here, we're not talking about reflecting on action. You're talking about reflecting on principles. When you get your principle right, then everything's right. Reshma, what is interesting perspective? I'm not clear what you're talking about.
That negative environment forces us to reflect more.
No. Correct, no? Negative environment forces us to reflect. That is why, what's her name? Kunti told Krishna. Remember what Kunti told Krishna?
Give me sorrow.
Give me sorrow that I might remember you. Give me sorrow that I might remember you. But everything is very comfortable when we are all very comfortable. Okay, so shall we continue? I know it is frightening when you hear 1 is to 4 reflection too much. Baba, I can't do that. At best, what happens? At best, I'm like, oh, this is so wonderful. We're not doing this is so wonderful. We're trying to understand what that thing is. Okay, so. Yeah, Vidushi.
Janki ji, what if you exceed that ratio? Sometimes one takes hours on a sentence, and it's not like you're getting distracted, but you're really exceeding the 1:4 ratio.
A very unusual problem. Make sure, firstly, that it's not mental wandering, because it's very, very difficult to do this. And if you are doing it with concentration and discipline, then make sure that you're not exceeding the entire time of your study, not exceeding, considering the entire time of your study, 1.5 hours. You have to stop when it's 1 hour.
What if you still have questions left?
Next session. So let's say you have a session in the morning. You start in the morning, then you rest in the afternoon, and then you wake up and you do it at the next session. Whatever you slotted yourself. If you slotted yourself 2 sessions or 3 sessions or whatever you slotted yourself at the next session.
And you don't think of it the rest of the day.
You don't put in effort. Thoughts may come to you. That is an effect. So any effect you're least bothered about. You don't put in effort. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Janki ji.
All right, so let's continue. Consider this book you are reading. Of what value will it be to you? It all depends on the reflection that goes in. If it took 5 hours to read the book, the reflection it will require is approximately 20 hours. Only to the extent this is done will the book be transforming. Otherwise, it is just something one appreciates and then forgets. This is the greatest bane of our life. Okay, biggest problem in our life is that with this knowledge, there is more, what should I say, killing you with kindness. Everybody is sweet, everybody is nice, everybody is like, this knowledge is so wonderful, and we are all exactly where we are. So we have to up the ante a bit. We can finish. His studies were pursued but never effectually overtaken. H.G. Wells. Really bad, right? I mean, people can be really rude. How brilliant would our students be if schools and universities gave a reflection period after every teaching period? The only place I know where this happens as of now is Vedanta Academy. Nowhere else it happens as of now. There's a reflection period following your study. It would save much time in learning. Learning would become much less time consuming experience. Learning would become a much less time consuming experience. The slowness gives the speed. Let us not be put off by initial effort. It will reap rich dividends. Let us commit ourselves to pondering, cogitating, reflecting on the information we receive. And that brings us to the crux of the book. What are we supposed to do? Okay, Shravana, hearing, we took in information. That didn't change us. So we're going to think about it and hopefully that will change us. So here we come to methods to reflect. How does one reflect? By doubting. To expect, so what is it? Oh, they say be skeptical about everything you hear. Be skeptical by doubting. To accept whatever one has been told as true without any verification is deadening. You're a dead human being if you're simply accepting whatever anyone tells you as true. One needs to question what one has read, what was seen, what was heard. Often we find we agree with an idea, but that is irrelevant. Do we live that idea completely? If not, we don't fully understand it. There's a lacuna in the understanding. There's an impediment in the application. Suppose I understand that discipline is a very good thing, but I've never been disciplined one day in my life. Then I can't say I understand that discipline is a good idea. There's a lacuna in this understanding. There's an impediment in the application. That means there is a contrary thought preventing action. That thought is the doubt. That thought is the doubt means you have to take that thought up and think about it. That thought requires examining, processing. So I'm sure all of you have this notion. I mean, what Mamita was speaking about, it's a very real experience for all of us, isn't it? You read it and it's so inspiring and it's awe-provoking, really. You think, oh wow, this is superb. And it's so true. And I completely agree with this. See, unless you agreed with it largely, at least you wouldn't be in the class. So very often it becomes like preaching to the choir. But the point is not that you agree or disagree. Why is that not important whether you agree or disagree?
Because what actually matters are your actions.
The idea is not only your actions. What you're saying is right. What does my agreement or disagreement matter? The truth is the truth. I may agree with it, I may disagree with it. Truth is not changing because I agreed or disagreed. So my agreement doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. So many people say, oh, you are so wonderful. This knowledge is so wonderful. Does it matter? Either it is true or it is false. If it is true, saying it is not changing anything. And if it is false, again, it's not changing anything. So all this agreement and disagreement is immaterial. What is material is comprehension. And the yardstick for comprehension is
Your actions.
action. How is the action? That is the yardstick of comprehension. So whether I agree or disagree, suppose I say, I think Vedanta is wonderful. I agree with everything it says. So what? So really what? That doesn't, my agreement doesn't make Vedanta right. And my disagreement doesn't make it wrong. No, my agreement is in with you. What I need to know is it a fact? You know, there must be people today on this planet who agree with Hamas. There must be people on this planet today who agree with Israel. What does that prove? Does it prove anything? Suppose we know number of people who agree with Hamas, so much. Number of people agreeing with Israel, so much. Does that mean anything? It's nothing, right? It makes no difference to truth, whether you and I agree with it or not. What is, is. So don't even think about, do I agree on? Think about, do I?
Think about whether or not it's true.
Do I?
Do I comprehend it or not?
Understand.
Practice.
Whether you agree. Huh?
Do I apply it?
Practice.
Do I practice?
Do I do? Correct. Do I do it? Not whether I agree or not, but do I do it? Because doing it shows that I
I
Understand.
think it's true.
Agree.
comprehend. Yeah, Nadine.
So mananas is a constant observation. It's not only part of the reflection in the morning. It's a constant way of observing your intellect, discernment, and the action that you take. So it's a constant way of being in Satchibhava.
Manana is actually just reflection. The consequence of reflection is what you're talking about. That's just a consequence. How conscious you are of what is going on is a consequence of how much you're reflecting. Because consciousness means what? At what point do you call it conscious? A plant is conscious of its environment. Animal is also conscious, but there's a difference, right? We understand the difference. Humans are also conscious. Einstein is conscious of his environment. Now, or Newton is conscious of his environment. Now, see, as the understanding deepens, the consciousness is more, what should I say, more available, right? So being conscious is the direct result of how well we have understood something. Because you just see, you understand why this is happening this way. And how well you understood something is a result of how much you thought about it. Okay? So Sakshi Bhav is a consequence of the morning reflection. Or if you're in Vidushi, then your multiple reflections of the day. Okay, so this is clear. Everybody is clear about this. It is not agreement. It is doing. Because comprehension is known by whether we did it. Vedanta, life is so simple, no? Do I comprehend anything? Answer to that question is, do I do it? If I don't do it, I don't comprehend. This is what I love about Vedanta. I hope you love it too. I feel it's the greatest thing because it's very simple. No complications in this thing. And that's why giving exams in Vedanta is a bit pointless. You can write an exam very well, but the question is, did you do it? Very simple, no? Must be the world's easiest subject to study. Clear. Whatever it's saying, it's clear. The process of reflection is questioning and applying oneself to facts. Please underline this. Applying oneself to facts. To first understand the theory and then apply it to situations. What is being said and how is that applicable in a real life situation? To first understand the theory, so many people, I'm actually horrified. I don't know what to say because good manners commands me to agree with whatever people are saying. But facts commands me to be horrified at what they are saying. Because they tell me, that thing you said, no, it was so good. You told us that if anybody says anything rude to you, then you must put up with that rudeness. Okay. Did I say that? You may think so, but I never said that. But they will credit me with all sorts of things that I have never said. Now, the thing is, people who believe that any teacher has told them something stick to that thing so much that they use it completely out of context. Absolutely out of context. And that is the reason all these religious people are constantly fighting with each other. Their logic is very simple. My teacher said this. My teacher is the greatest. He said this. Whatever he said is correct. And you are not doing that. Therefore, you're an idiot. And the whole world starts thinking like this. Then everybody thinks everybody else is an idiot. So Vedanta doesn't do that. What does Vedanta do?
Tells you to question.
It tells you what is the basic principle involved. That's the basic principle, right? You will understand when it's applicable, when it's not applicable, how is it applicable, how much is it applicable. Everything is clear. You have no argument with anybody. You'll be surprised how many people argue with each other when they're both saying the same thing. It's surprising, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. So, the process of reflection is questioning and applying oneself to facts. You first understand the theory and then apply it to situations. Understand the theory means what? Understand a fact and then see whether it's playing out in real life or not. Does the theory fit? In which cases does it apply? Where does it not? Suppose I tell you water boils at 100 degrees centigrade. Is this thing correct? Correct. Now you went up on top of Mount Everest and you got it to 100 degrees, but it didn't boil. So some people will say, my teacher said this, so this has to be correct. If it doesn't boil, there's something wrong with the water, not with the principle, with the water. Some people say, oh, they taught us all wrong things. The truth is that the whole statement is water boils at 100 degrees. Finish it.
At room temperature, at
At sea level. Sea
atmospheric
level.
pressure.
At
Sea level.
Correct. At sea level. Pure water boils at 100 degrees at sea level. That is the whole thing. Now we shorten it to water boils at 100 degrees centigrade, and then we create confusion around this whole thing. The whole thing is the sample of pure water boils at 100 degrees at sea level. If you get everything right, it has to do that. If you put salt in the water, will it boil at 100 degrees? You might want. So even if you're at sea level. So whatever happens, remember, where is that Feynman said that wonderful statement? We found it sometime last time. You can go against everything, but you cannot go against, here it is, page 37. If your conclusions contradict common sense, then so much for common sense. Throw your common sense out of the window. If they conflict with received philosophical opinion, then too bad for received opinion. But if they deny the very facts of your experience, then you must consign your conclusion to the flames. If it goes against tradition, okay, it went against tradition. It goes against common sense, no problem. But if it goes against the very fact of an experience, then your conclusion has to be wrong. So, does the theory fit? In which cases does it apply? Where does it not? What are all the words referring to? Are there any logical fallacies? Any obvious errors? Any alternative theory? How does this theory fit the facts better than others? You remember we studied about creating a theory? How you create a theory is you got all your facts and then you find something that can bind the facts together. Now, when you do that, you can find maybe multiple ways of binding these facts together. Have you considered them all? I hope you all remember we studied it in chapter what, 3? 4, chapter 4, huh? When we were making logical inferences. Those who have not studied it, please go back and listen to those lectures. They are available. How does this theory fit the facts better than others? Is it a first principle, or is it itself derived from some other theory? Take this theory. The world changes. This is clearly a first principle that is non-dependent on any other. Can it be verified? Can it be shown wrong in any condition? Can I use it to understand how long my marriage will last or my house? Does it help predict anything? What about mountains? Do they change? What about the laws of life? Will E is equal to mc squared change? When? In what things can one seek permanence? Is the rate of change same in all things? Okay, so this is just a way of questioning whatever idea we have studied. Life is meant for eating, drinking, and making merry. This is another theory. Again, we can reflect on it. This is clearly not a first principle. In that case, where did it come from? Is it true in all circumstances? Where will it work? Where will it not? What happens to those who hold this theory? See, this is just examples of how you can reflect on an idea. This is how you question it. We have many tools when it comes to thinking and reflecting. There are varied methods by which the human mechanism can think, develop understanding, and render solutions. Given below is the list of the types of thinking one may apply during reflection. Okay, so from next time onwards, we will discuss the various types of thinking that we can apply. And so that's it for today. I think Deepak Negi has an announcement for us.